We are back for another episode of the Small Business After Hours podcast, here with Managing Partner of Next Gen Interactive and COSE Board Chair Kevin Johnson. I'm Megan Kim, COSE Executive Director, and we have another wonderful guest here today to talk with us about a very pertinent topic, which is talent. So Kevin, tell us about who we have with us today.
Thank you, Megan. I'm great to be back for another episode. Today we have with us Erin Longmoon. She is the CEO of Zephyr Recruiting, and they are a very unique boutique recruiting entity from my view. And I'm so excited to hear what her story is and how she's pulled everything off and the challenges that she's been through. So with no further ado, let me introduce to you Erin Longmoon. Erin, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kevin and Megan. I'm so excited to be here.
It's great to have you.
Yeah, this is exciting.
So I always love to start with the beginning of your story. So you started the business in 2017.
That's correct.
What made you kind of have your entrepreneurial seizure and decide I'm going to do this on my own and have my own business?
You know, it's interesting. I've been an entrepreneur actually multiple times, so it wasn't the first one. And actually prior to Zephyr, I owned a company called Sage Business Partners, and we were business coaches. And we focused on very small businesses, usually anywhere from 0 to maybe 50 employees. Mm-hmm. And mostly we were there to help systematize, create processes, get them the foundation so they could scale. And then it would inevitably get to a point where hiring became a need. And then I started seeing that as their biggest challenge. Mm-hmm. And they had no resources for support. There were few in the recruiting industry that really geared toward the small business employer. It was very costly to use the typical services. So I just had this aha moment of like, I need to pivot this and supply a really reasonable, viable solution for this big problem. So that's how it came to be, almost exactly 4 years ago.
That's great.
Right? Yeah, on the 28th of this month, it'll be 4 years.
Now, do you have a background in HR or anything of
that
sort?
Well, because I've been in small business my whole career, I have been a Janet of all trades, Jane of all trades, whatever it is. So yes, in that I wore many, many hats, as you often do when you work in small business. Right. So I've done hiring, recruiting, I've done HR, I've also been, bookkeeper, I've been marketing, I've done it all, which is really what helps me serve our clients from a bigger picture perspective too, because I understand how it all works.
Okay.
Yes.
And you really hit it on the head because we always hear that small businesses struggle from a talent perspective, right? You're competing with these big companies or these middle market companies who have all these benefits and perks and all these things that you can't really deliver in the same way as a small company, but that's become even more challenging now. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because I as I was looking at some of the information on your website, you focus on attracting, hiring, and retaining because there's also the risk of losing those folks. So talk a little bit about that full picture because you do kind of all three of those areas.
We do. And, there's a story behind why, we were doing the recruiting, just filling these positions, and we were finding on both sides of that journey, either the attracting the right people was challenging because there was no reputation, like the company had no reputation, no one knew they existed. So you're really hidden in the community. And then on the other side, once we would bring in a great person, maybe something would happen and they wouldn't stay very long. So we started, looking at what's wrong, what's the challenge here from both perspectives. Because if you really want to solve this challenging problem of recruiting and keeping a team, you have to look at it from that 360 or those three prongs. So, attracting is about basically marketing, getting your name out in your community that you're a great employer, featuring yourself as an employer, not just a company for your clients. And then the retention is all about culture and onboarding and training and engagement and all the ways that you create an amazing place for someone to work and want to stay.
So that's interesting because I did my research prior.
Good for you.
And it's the one thing, when I go to a website and I look at a company's website, I instantly think, what are they trying to communicate?
Right.
There was something about your website and the word culture came to mind. It's like, okay, these folks are after culture. Culture is something that is in their DNA. Is that true?
That is so true.
Okay.
It's both in our DNA as Zephyr, and then it's also definitely our soapbox. We really think that if you, especially as a small business owner, can create an intentional culture and foster that culture, then it's easier to then find the right people, the ideal people who are excited about your culture, And that's unique to your business or your business. So that's the part about attracting, but then the retention part, if they feel like they're integrated into that culture and they resonate with the culture you're creating, that's when people will want to stay and never want to leave you.
Kind of a buy-in. If
yeah,
they can buy
exactly.
into the environment that's there,
Yes.
it makes life a lot better.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
How do you help companies? So do you help companies develop their culture? So if you get into a business
Right.
and you say, what's your culture? And
Right.
they say, well, we really don't have one. Do you help them in figuring out how to create that?
Yes, we do. We do. And it starts often with core values, just at the core of culture. You really have to know your core values, and they need to be more than aspirational or just the trendy words. Like, you really have to go deep and really discover what your company is about from a values perspective, and then that sets the foundation. And so sometimes we have to go to that starting point even with our clients, and we do that as well as the hiring. We do the
Right.
recruiting as well.
Right.
But,
Well, you know what? In our, I always call it the pre-recording before the cameras come on.
Yeah,
We started
yeah.
talking a little bit about this virus and the environment that we're in, COVID-19.
Correct. Yep.
What have you found in terms of how it's impacted your business or how
Right.
it's impacted your clients' businesses, and anything that you could lend to anyone watching this podcast about how they might consider handling it?
Right, that's such a great and very loaded question, Kevin. Because we work with small businesses, and we all know small business communities were hit extremely hard. Most, not all, but many were hit extremely hard. So it hit us hard. We definitely had to go into survival mode, like a lot of other businesses, and triage. And we had to cut our team at a certain point last year, which was by far the hardest thing I've ever done as an entrepreneur. And but I also knew a lot of other people were in the same boat, and so there was an essence of we are in this together, which I know a lot of people talk about, that I think helped me wake up every day and know that we're going to get through this. And I know a lot of my CEO colleagues felt the same way. So it was rough. It's a really rough situation. And then I think what you kind of alluded to this before, Kevin, so sorry, listeners, you weren't aware of this conversation, but COVID really brought to the surface for a lot of people sort of whether they came close to death. I hate to bring up morbid stuff, but death themselves, or where they knew people who were passing away.
Right.
We really had this moment, like this existential crisis moment, right? Of what is my life really about, and what do I really want in my life? And it goes, I think a lot of people went pretty deep, and so we're seeing. I think that's at the core of this shift, of this great resignation that people are talking about. And, we can look at it from surface level, things like better pay, or, like different topics that people are saying you should offer as an employer to lure people in. But I think, like you mentioned, it goes deeper than that.
Deeper.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a while before we really see how this is going to play out and how this is going to settle out. But our client, this is our biggest year we've ever had from a business perspective out of the 4 years. So people are hiring. We are finding great people to work. It's just taking longer, but we are doing it. We're filling roles and stuff. So things are shifting.
One of the things I always say is that when the crisis comes, the issue has more to do with how do you keep that glass half full, and how do you look at how you're going to be better even despite the crisis.
Right.
The other way to put it is the short version is never waste a crisis.
Right.
And so I've always
Yes.
believed that, whether it's in business or personal, how do you do that? I think that COVID-19 has really been a challenge. It's been a challenge from that whole concept of never waste a crisis.
Right.
The other side of that might be never get wasted by a crisis, because
Yeah,
this
right.
has been a
right?
tough crisis,
It's
right?
Yes.
But
yes.
it's been challenging. It
Yeah.
has been challenging, to say
Yeah.
the least.
Yeah.
So you talk about this being a busy year and that you are finding people. So I think about that from both sides, right? So it's about the company finding the talent, but you have something that you talk about that's kind of the ideal fit.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that, because I'm interested. It has to work for both parties.
It
so,
does.
It's great that you
Yes.
found this employee, but how do you make sure that it's right for you as the owner as well.
Yeah, well, it takes sort of a specific process that we've developed, but it's sort of based on a lot of like coaching principles and just really good interviewing skills, building trust in the process, and without going to a lot of detail, but that's sort of at the foundation of how we're then able to determine the true needs of the employer and their culture and their team dynamics and the leadership style. And we have to get that full picture. And then with the candidate side, it's similar. Like how do we get to know them beyond the typical, just I'm going to give you the robotic answers that a lot of job seekers feel they need to give, and really get to the core of who that person is, because it's that core that makes them the ideal fit. There's skills and things at the top, but the ideal fit really has to do with, like I said, a resonance between like the core values and who that candidate is, and then the core values and the culture of that company. And they don't need to be the same, but they need to be aligned,
Right. Right.
And the ideal fit concept came because I really truly believe that like you could be an A player in one company and a C player in another,
Right.
if it's not the right fit for you, right? So that's really what I mean by ideal fit, and knowing that I truly believe there's also a match for every job. There, no matter what the job, no matter what the culture, no matter what the leadership style, someone will thrive at your company, and it's our job to uncover who those people are and to find them for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Erin, small business, you're doing recruiting. How do you find your clients? How do your clients find you?
Yeah, that's such a good, well, most of our clients come from referrals
Okay.
because, we do really great work, right? So just organic growth has happened. I do a lot of podcasts, so I'm out there in the world, which helps a lot. Obviously, if people are looking, it is interesting if you type in like Googling, for example, right? Small business recruiting, you just really, it's hard to find a company like ours, because Indeed comes up, like all the big
Right,
guys, which
yeah.
really isn't recruiting. Those are just platforms
Yep.
to post your job. They really don't help you very much. So how do people find us? I mean, my website, I will plug it now, is it's www.zephyrrecruiting.com.
That's right.
And Zephyr is Zephyr. I need to spell that because not everybody knows
That's right.
that word.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do you know what that means?
I
I
don't.
was just going
You
to
do-
ask you
yeah?
too.
Okay,
Right.
I put you on the spot. It actually means a gentle breeze. And
In what?
just in, you know what, I don't know its roots.
Okay.
I don't know its roots. That's
Okay.
really good. I mean, I'm thinking it's an English word, but maybe I'm wrong.
But
Oh
why
no,
did you
now I've
choose
got to
that?
look at it. Well, I was thinking, I really wanted a name that gave the impression, it's funny that not everybody knows what it means, but when they do, but gave the impression that we can really take this off your plate and make this
love
recruiting
that.
piece easy. Like as easy as a breeze, if I could be so
Okay.
cheesy.
Okay. Way to tie it together.
Yeah,
Way to tie it
exactly.
together.
I
That
love
was
it.
good. That
We
was
make
good.
hiring a breeze.
We talk a
basically.
lot at COSE about our businesses doing business with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal for us.
Yes.
And so it's important that we continue to refine our ability to allow our members to find other members that are
Right.
offering services and value that they need,
Right.
and be able to connect, right?
Yes, yes,
So we want to
yes,
make
yes.
sure that continues to grow, and
Yes.
that Zephyr is part of that.
Oh, absolutely.
So-
Yes, COSE is great. We're newer to this area. I started the company in Seattle, so I admit, and then shortly after I moved here, COVID hit. So I have a lot of work to do to get out into the community here now that we're kind of opening up and meet people. But
Well, okay,
yeah.
so that opens about another question. How
Okay.
do you like Cleveland coming from Seattle?
I know, right? You know what? It's so much more relaxed to be here, and that I didn't even know. I was telling someone this the other day. I didn't even know how much stress I was like carrying, because it's just like the normal part of your day or
Yeah,
life
yeah,
until we got here. And then about 6 months in, I was like, just felt so calm.
I love that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's been really great. And it's just easier to navigate. It's loving the tree. The trees are amazing. And Seattle has a lot of trees, but they're evergreen, right? So they don't change a lot of
They don't change
colors. I mean,
colors.
there's some. They've been building, but this place, it's magnificent. It's like right now, it's just gold outside my window.
So you came to Cleveland right around when COVID started.
It was about a year before. Yeah, we were here for about 1 year before.
So you were here because I was going to
Yeah.
say then, did you bring a lot of clients from Seattle, or did you have to really start over when you came here?
Actually,
You
we're
work across the
we're
country?
nationwide. Yeah, so we're 100% virtual and have been since day one.
Okay.
So we were very lucky in that we didn't have a lot of challenges when COVID hit, but we actually were able to support a lot of our company, our
Right.
clients. in learning how to bring a team together virtually, because it's a challenge to create culture in a virtual environment. But so we're 100% virtual. We have clients all across the United States. So, and our team is all over the United States. So, we can help anybody.
All right. So give us a couple of tips. Okay. I have been saying throughout this that there is an awful lot of business that can get done using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Cisco, whatever. Whatever API you want to use, that you can use them, and you can continue to get some things done. I have challenged, though, that there are two areas that are very, very difficult to do in a remote fashion. Number one is ideation. I think it's very difficult to do real ideation in a remote fashion.
That's interesting. Okay.
And then the second one is building culture. How do you build culture remotely?
Yeah.
And I felt that those two things are very, very challenging to do successfully in a virtual environment. You have to give us some tips.
I can definitely give tips on the culture one primarily.
All right.
Because we're so small, the ideation thing is, a little different maybe for us. But the culture piece, one, going back to the idea of intention, you have to have intention. You can't just assume it's going to happen. So you have to put time and thought and planning into it. And again, try to matching the culture you have. So I'll give an example of Zephyr is that, we have a very fun culture. It's actually one of our core values because I truly believe.
Your website seems to exist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're not having fun, what's the point? That's really it's like we got to have a good time.
I love it.
So, we have like a quarterly movie club that we do, and everybody watches a movie, and then we get together, we have a little wine for those who like to have wine, and we talk about it. Okay. And then we do, we've got a book club.
Do you do that remotely?
We do it remotely.
Okay.
We all get on Zoom.
All right.
So we all watch the movie by the deadline, and then we get on Zoom and we chat it all out.
Okay.
And you do get very used to it. I will admit, I think it seems, I can't wait to be able to get with my team in person. And I've met almost all of them in person. And we're having our first in-person retreat in January, which is super exciting.
Okay.
But I still really feel very connected. And I think part of it is because we spend a lot of time together on Zoom. Like you can't just, once a week maybe meet for an hour. We communicate a lot, and we use Slack and other tools to make that connection. But I think, taking some time to really plan out opportunities for people to connect, whether it's one-on-one opportunities or group opportunities, is critical in creating that connection when you've got people in every time zone. It's really critical. Right. So we have a designated person on our team who that is a part of her job is to create these fun ideas. We're going to be doing escape rooms, a virtual escape room soon.
Okay.
And, so that's the other thing that came out of COVID is all these amazing opportunities now to do fun things online that didn't exist before. So, there's game platforms, there's mystery dinners. We're actually going to have, this is the other thing that's pretty fabulous, is we're having a chef in Thailand doing a cooking class for our team. So we will all get together. We will pay for the ingredients. We send it all out. Everyone gets together on Zoom, and we will all learn to cook together from this amazing teacher in Thailand, right?
I love it.
Yeah. So there's really, really amazing things.
But you know what? One of the things you said was that you hired someone to actually do this. You were very intentional.
Yes,
And I think that's the key. I mean, you can want to do it, but if you're not intentional about it, if it's not someone's responsibility, then it's kind of the leader who kind of wants to be great, building a great culture, but you don't have the bandwidth to do all of that.
That's the key. I mean, the heart is usually there. It's the bandwidth that's not. So we've hired someone, and that is a big part of her role. It's a line item in our budget. I mean, that's the other thing.
So that's the takeaway for our audience. All right, if you're going to maintain, and it's so important because remember, as COVID-19 is forcing change, right? And some of that change is going to be permanent. It's not going to be temporary.
It is.
And so the issue becomes, how do you actually pull this off? And hiring a chief cultural officer or whatever you want to call them, right? That's a key to trying to make sure that you still have a team environment and that you're able to pull it off.
Yeah.
So I think that's good.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, because you had said you've been advising some of your clients. Have you been talking to other small businesses about being open to remote workers or remote workplace? Talk a little bit about that, because I'm curious if people are jumping on that from a small business perspective, because to Kevin's point about creating a culture, and there's usually like a family environment.
Right. Well, there's hybrid is often a good solution, especially if you were already an in-person team where everyone lives near you and lives near an office, and you can actually get together in person. I do think that virtual is great, but it isn't necessarily, like to your point, ideal. It has things that it misses. So if you're in a situation where you could do hybrid, which means partially in person and partially at home, I think right now that's turning out to be a really nice solution for everyone, because it gives that connection in person, but then it also allows that work-life balance and a little bit more flexibility that a lot of people want right now by working from home. And who wants to commute? And I think we've all learned that through pandemics. Like, we can actually do better work and be more efficient working right from our home, and nobody wants to get rid of that, right? So the hybrid can be a really good kind of compromise.
And it's an interesting generational thing too. I found here, a lot of our younger workers are enjoying being at home. They didn't want to come back to the office. They liked that they could work wherever they wanted to work. And then some other people are more traditional workers that they couldn't wait to get back to the office, to see people in the kitchen and say hello or pop over to someone's office. So it is a lot of generations in the workplace together right now too, which is also changing the way that we have to think about our structures.
If we really could get to a place where we could create workplace, whatever that is called, that really works for that individual, then I think we would really solve a lot of problems. So if you've got people who really want to work from home, allow them to work from home. And if you've got people who really want to be in an office and you can afford, like the overhead and whatever makes sense, then allow them to be in their office, because everyone is very unique in what they need out of work. And we spend a lot of time of our lives doing our work. So if we can offer a way to do it that really works for each individual, that would be great. I think engagement and retention will go through the roof if we can do that.
What's next for Zephyr Recruiting?
Wow, that's a great question. Grow. I mean, really, we are 4 years in, and we are at the place where we just want to grow. I want to be like, and I really don't love this company, sorry, but I want to be the Robert Half of small business recruiting.
Okay.
I really want Zephyr to be a name that small business employers know, and they feel like they've got a partner to help them solve this problem, and they're not alone in recruiting. And, so eventually I want to be that big. That's where we're going.
It's awesome. Yeah. Well, and so a similar question. So what has changed? So when you started 4 years ago, and you decided this is what you're going to do, has the business evolved, changed, your focus shifted over the last 4 years?
Definitely. I think a couple of different things I can think of. I mean, one, the job market has changed a lot, right? So it's harder to fill the positions. We have to be more thoughtful. We think of recruiting as a marketing process, right? Like, we're trying to attract the right people. So we have to be more strategic about where are the right people hanging out, what kind of messaging will attract them to us. That has shifted a little bit. It's gotten harder, so we've had to get more strategic when we recruit, but that's actually the fun part of what we do. The other piece is that the process has had to be refined, because I kind of started it like a lot of recruiting companies are. It's sort of a transactional relationship, right? Like, you pay your fee or whatever, you get a hire. And we have learned, and both in our hearts, it resonates better with our values, but also it turns out our clients need more of a partnership. So we've changed and modified our process so that we can be more of a partner with our clients, and really started to pull away from the idea of recruiting as a transaction.
So talk a little bit more about that. What does the partner or partnership include? What does it involve?
Yeah.
How does that look?
Well, so it starts with, like I kind of alluded to earlier, where we really deeply get to know our clients. So we're not just looking at what's the position requirements. We need to know everything about that company. We get to know it. We almost onboard ourselves into the company. We take a significant amount of time up front. We have a 3-hour intake. We do, a lot of back and forth. We do employee interviews. Like, we really embed ourselves into our client's business so that we can know who they are. And that allows us to feel more like an extension of them rather than this outside vendor. We just really feel like we're their recruiting department, and they just call us anytime. And then we partner in that we work with them during the entire process. It isn't just, we go run and do our job, here's your hire. It's we're having meetings and conversations, and we're massaging the whole process together as a team. And it's been amazing. Yeah.
What's the breadth of your capability? Are you in all areas of recruiting, such as even technology and that type of thing?
Right. We have a few areas where it doesn't feel like the right fit for us in our model. One of them is like licensed medical. So we can do the office staff, but the licensed physicians and things like
Yes.
that, right? Lawyers, same thing. Lawyer recruiting is very networked based, right? So, and then technology, we've done some technology positions, but there are so many, there's like a technology recruiter on every street corner, right? So it just seems like, at least in Seattle, right, where we came from.
That's a Seattle thing.
Yeah, maybe it is. It just feels like, so I don't, maybe there's a market there, but we kind of stayed away only because the competition is so fierce. And the technology, this is a little, like the mindset of the typical owner of a tech company doesn't necessarily like our model because it takes time. It is that relationship. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of them are like, I need to get a developer in here yesterday, like quick. It's more like a staffing kind of need. And that type of client doesn't work well for us either.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's more about mindset, whether it works, it's a good partnership or not. We don't niche in any one industry. Our niche really is more this small business, smaller team kind of space.
So just,
go ahead.
Well, in that same kind of realm of partnerships, are there other small businesses that you partner with to maybe work on something for a client together? Have you done anything like that?
We have not actually done anything other than a couple of business coaches will often actually be the one who will bring us in. So we've done that, but not yet. And I'd love to. Like there's a lot of HR companies out there who don't do recruiting or it isn't their main space. It's sort of an ancillary service. And I'd really love to partner with them because we don't do compliance. We do not do, benefits. We don't do handbooks. Like we're not HR, so I'm hoping to find the right HR firm to partner with at some point soon.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
You're very focused on your area.
Yes.
Specializing in knowing that area and executing within that, within those boundaries.
Correct.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
So as we're getting to the end of our time here, one of my final questions, I'm sure you have a final question too, is what do you love about being a small business owner?
Oh, wow. I feel like even though this sounds counter maybe to what other people think, I feel like I can have the bigger impact by being a small business owner. I mean, I can make changes. I can react and respond to my clients' needs very quickly. If I have a client who's like, hey, I'd really love this service within a month, right? Like I can design it, I can get it going for them. I can pivot, I can massage. Like I just don't need, it's not a slow moving ship, right? It's a fast moving ship. And then when I say bigger impact, I feel like that then allows us to really have a bigger impact when we make these hires and it's really the right fit. The ripple effect is enormous. It's enormous, and I want to stay connected to that all the time. And if I get too big, which is going to be one of my challenges, going back to the future of Zephyr, I think of that all the time as a CEO. How am I going to take this that big and maintain that connection? Right? And maintain that culture. And I feel like that's the problem I'm truly going to end up solving in the next 10 years.
It's interesting. I listened to the value proposition that you've presented for Zephyr Recruiting. And one of the things I think right off the top as a small business owner is, we wear too many hats. Okay, it's not that we wear a lot of hats. We wear too many hats. And so the ability to take one of those hats and throw them on Zephyr and say, that's my recruiting entity. That's exceptionally valuable. And the way you do it, because I believe most small businesses have more of a focus on relationship building. We just
absolutely.
do. We know that business is done on relationship, but at our level, it's just so much more important.
It is.
So I applaud the approach that you all are taking at Zephyr.
You.
I am really pleased that you've chosen Cleveland. We didn't talk about how you chose it, but that's not relevant. You're here.
Yes, we are here.
And we need...
we have some family ties.
Okay, that's great. But you've come to Cleveland at a great time.
Yes,
and
I know it is an exciting
I
time.
look forward to working with you and having COSE engaged with yet another member who's providing such exceptional value. So thank you for everything that you're doing. Megan, you want to close out?
Thank you for joining us.
Thank
another
you
great
so
conversation.
Much. It was great.
Thank you all for joining us for another episode, and we will see you on the next episode of COSE Small Business After Hours.
Thank you so much.